Greetings, all you, and welcome to another movie review. This time it is the animated Mario movie 2. So, I recently saw this, and just to get to the verdict, do I recommend this film? My answer is maybe. In short, the first animated Mario film from about 3 years ago was done better. So, let me explain what I mean, and we'll go from there. So, as a caveat, I've grown up on Mario material. Primarily the games, secondarily cartoons, movies. I haven't seen everything, I haven't played everything, I have not followed everything. Then again, Mario as a character and Mario as a franchise have been around for over 40 years. Think about this. Mario Mario's existence as a character, as a plumber, a guy who just mostly walks around, jumps over pits, stomps on things, collects power ups, and makes Bowser cry, has existed longer than the 40 years that it took the children of Israel to get from where they were to where they were going. Just let that settle for a moment. So, why do I say that the second movie is not as great as the first? Well, the first one was the origin story. The first one felt like it had plenty of time to plan. Like everyone was trying to make the best story, the best film they could in this medium. Because they knew that if it went well, it would open the door for a lot of sequels, spin offs, and merchandise. And if it didn't do at least as well as the original people in charge of making these decisions thought that it would, then that would be the end of it. A bunch of people would be sad, and so on and so forth. So, to be clear, the second Mario movie, the Mario Galaxy film, was an interesting, fun time. It felt like, because of all the Mario and Nintendo references in it, that I was remembered as a fan. It felt like, from fans to fans, that the movie makers, to me, we were like friends talking about some various Nintendo and Mario references, and we were to some degree geeking out or reminiscing over things that we found interesting in the Mario franchise, and well, Nintendo in general, and not just in the mainline franchise either. So things that were more obscure, I saw references to Dance Dance Revolution, Mario Mix. Some of the Mario RPGs, such as Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars, uh, Partners in Time, and there are probably a bunch of others that I don't recall offhand or that I didn't understand, even though I recognize them. Yes, there are plenty of references to music throughout Mario's 40-plus year history. So yeah, it was a fun time. It was a spectacle, but I felt like they were trying to do too much, too fast, and too soon. Take a deep breath, and I'll give you a moment to think about this. So, this is only the second movie in this continuity. We're ignoring the 90s movie, the live action movie with Bob Hoskins from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, in this continuity, the first film was basically the origin story. How do Mario and Luigi get to the Mushroom Kingdom, meet Princess Peach Toadstool, and find and beat up Bowser? That's basically it. That's a pretty solid origin story for the Mario Brothers. Okay, and where do you go from there? Well, there are plenty of things they could have done and plenty of things they should have done. But to jump from here's the origin story in the first film, let's get you adjusted to these characters. Now, let's rush them off to space in the second film. That is going entirely too fast. The plot does not have time or room to breathe in general. There are times when the plot does slow down and feel like a story, but there's just so much in this film in the hour and a half or so that it's running that feels like it's trying to cover about 40 years of Mario history in about 90 minutes. That is simply too much to cram in there. It feels like they're going from Mario reference or Nintendo reference to reference to reference to reference, and they just made a plot out of references without making it especially interesting to watch or feel narratively cohesive. There are plenty of questions that are not answered. For example, why do Mario and the Koopas and everyone who goes to space not need, some sort of spacesuit or space helmet when this was established in one of the Super Mario Land games for Game Boy? Yes, I know, I'm going back that far. Also, for Super Paper Mario, which is another thing that was referenced. Even there, Mario, before he could go to space, had to wear some sort of fishbowl or something like a space helmet to be able to breathe in space. And I know it's a cartoon. I know that this movie was splitting the difference in terms of audience between people who have been fans of Mario for years and who are now adults, and people who are so young that they're expecting Santa Claus to show up for Christmas this year. I know. But with the first Mario movie, I felt like they had time to breathe. They were focused on establishing an interesting world, interesting characters, and yes, the film was short. It was too no, just like the second one felt way too short. The second one also felt too short, but for different reasons. The first one felt too short because I was liking what was happening, and I wanted to experience more of it. And the second one, Mario Galaxy, felt like it jumped to the third or fourth or fifth film in terms of what should be in the continuity, introduced a bunch of characters. If you look at the movie poster here, this is basically the movie. It's look at all the references here, and that's the film. So, who do we have that's new in this film from the first one? Yoshi, well, he's a more prominent character in this film, even though he was mentioned, or he was briefly included in the first one. We have some Mario 2, aka Doki Doki Panic things. We have Birdo, we have Mouser, we have Wart. There's also a crab thing in there as a reference. There are some ninjas, if you look at the right side. What else? We have a frog suit from one scene. We have a penguin suit from one scene. We have more Loomies from a small number of scenes. Not pictured here from what I can tell. There's no Fox McCloud, even though he's in the film. There's Bowser Jr., who's new. There's Rosalina, who's new, voiced by Brie Larson, also known as Captain Marvel. There's a paint mechanic from one of the painting up baddies from one of the later Mario games. They have some small planets or space travel from some of the later Mario games, and so on and so forth. And it's like if you look at this and you're trying to fit everything from this and more into a 90-minute cohesive film, that's just too much. Bowser and Mario and the other characters, they felt like they were more plot points than characters with personalities. Because in the first film, yeah, it was going slower and I could understand more about who the characters were meant to be. Okay, Princess Peach Toadstool, action girl who found a warp pipe and taken to the Mushroom Kingdom by Toads and raised by them to be their princess. Why not their queen? Because game? Because don't think too hard. Okay, that's one of those things that it's canon to the games, don't think too hard, I'm okay with it. As opposed to Rosalina is another princess? What's going on? Why do we have two princesses now? Why is there no queen? Why is there no king? Are you trying not to confuse the audiences by saying that King Bowser is not the only king there? I don't know. Well, otherwise, we have Mario, the guy in charge who felt like in this film he had a small number of lines, I don't know, maybe 20, 25, 30 lines in the final version, as opposed to having more in the previous film, because they're splitting screen time. About the same amount of screen time as before with so many characters. So that's another thing. But at least the animation was pretty. At least the locations were colorful. And, the parasol or the umbrella that Peach is holding right now, that felt like it got more screen time and got more character development than a bunch of the actual characters in this film. And I absolutely called it. Like, what does Peach get? She gets her trademark parasol from Super Princess Peach and Smash. How did I know this? Well, I didn't look at any of the previews. It just I've played the games. I'm familiar with this, and yeah, what I can basically call out what's about to happen in this film because I've played the games. I don't know whether I should feel like this is a paint by numbers plot, and I know I use that term intentionally because of the paintbrush on the cover, or they're purposely including so many Mario references for the fans that they're trying to please them to the expense of having interesting characters. So yeah, and also to be clear, not everything in the film in terms of characterization was in the games that I know of. So there was something regarding Bowser being very small from the last from the end of the last film that was interesting. It's like, okay, well, how do you handle this? How do you handle Bowser meeting his son Bowser Jr.? So why is Bowser Jr. some sort of mechanical genius who has an army? Why are there giant mechanical Death Star like super weapons and planets in space? How does someone who looks like he is an elementary schooler, a kindergartner, I don't know, maybe the equivalent of someone in human years who'd be about 10 years old, build one of these things? How how did he get access to so much manpower and resources? Think about that for a moment. I don't know. The film doesn't answer it, and the film doesn't want you to think about it that hard. It's just meant to be, oh, that's interesting. It's an interesting vignette in a film of interesting, or what's meant to be interesting vignettes, short segments. Just go with it. Don't think too hard. It's a Mario movie. So and of course things wrap up nicely. Uh, Protagonists beat antagonists. There you go. So what is likely next for this film franchise? Because it is very likely getting at least a third entry. So again, these are some ideas. No, not these are ideas. These are estimates. These are not guarantees. If they happen, we can all feel better knowing that I said this. First thing I thought about is Mario Odyssey, because that's another major recent release where things were shaken up in terms of the Mario formula. Now, hats were a significant part of this film. So, what happens if Mario loses his hat and it gets replaced by Cappy from Mario Odyssey, at least for a little while? So, other things they could do. They could do more Mario too. Because they've set up this galaxy, they could go to various other Nintendo worlds. They're probably setting up for some sort of Smash Brothers movie. Because with all these characters, I'm like, how much longer until Smash? Because when I saw Fox McCloud in this Super Mario Galaxy film, I'm thinking, all right, Fox, Fox only, Blasters only, Final Destination, go. Okay, so in terms of antagonists for the next film or films, where could they go? What could they do? Well, if they're doing Smash, they have a bunch of Smash Brothers games already with story modes. They could do this stuff. They could do Master Hand. They could do Taboo, and so on and so forth. They could do Wario and Waluigi. They could do an original villain, original series of antagonists. They could do more of Wart from Mario 2. He was barely. He was one of the longer cameos or longer screen time characters in this film. They could do something else, maybe? Anyway, so going back to a previous point, why do I think that this film was rushed in terms of story? Because if you look at the Sonic films, the recent ones, 1, 2, and 3, which have been released over this past 5, 6 years, Sonic 1 was an establishing film. It went for characterization. It it was focused on, yes, bringing Sonic to the general audiences as well as fans. So it wasn't just a bunch of Sonic references. Yes, I did see it in theaters before pandemic hype hit in 2020. So it's like, cool, I get to see Sonic. And Sonic and the other characters were 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 built to be interesting characters who also were related to the Sonic franchise or the Sonic universe. Things were adapted. It was not one to one, just like these Mario films were not one to one. So why do I say that things were rushed? Because in the second film, they didn't go from, okay, Sonic exists in this space, uh, from somewhere in space to going to Earth and doing Earth things, rushing into, okay, now we have the giant Death Egg in in Mar- and now we have Team Chaotix, and now we have Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Shadow and Big the Cat and Rouge the Bat, and so on and so forth in the second film. And I felt like that's just that that's just too much to put into one film all at once. So if you're using the Sonic franchise as a gauge for Sonic movie franchise as a gauge for how to make interesting video game adaptations of uh, of films or film adaptations of video game characters, it's like make interesting characters, make solid characters and characterization for the general public, and then build incrementally instead of, okay, we have an origin story, let's jump like 30 years ahead to Super Mario Galaxy. Or let's jump ahead like 30 years of Sonic canon in an hour and a half of a Sonic film. That's just too much. So, yeah. Again, my thoughts on this film are it felt like an interesting time. So, Super Mario Galaxy film. Do I recommend it? Are you a Mario super fan? Are you someone who is easily entertained by a bunch of spectacle, who just wants to see Mario on screen? If you're one of these people, then yeah, you'll probably get a good kick out of it. Is it worth full price? If you're a Mario super fan or you just really want to see, Mario as a movie go to space, maybe. But this, to me, this is it's an interesting novelty. But if you really like video game films, the Sonic franchise is probably better overall. It is better overall because of the stronger characters. And for this, well, my my desire, my prayer is that things go better for the third film and onward in this Mario movie franchise, and slow down, Nintendo. I know you're dealing with like 40 years of history, but please, please, please give your story room to breathe so that people care about your characters and not just the spectacle. So, thank you, all of my beautiful, beautiful viewers. We like your likes, we subscribe to your subscriptions. Thank you again for your attention. Good night, and God bless.